In 1965, actor Vincent Price and his wife co-authored the 500-page cookbook, A Treasury of Great Recipes.
And now that classic is being re-released just in time for the holidays. I'm excited about that. And here to discuss that culinary sensation and growing up Hollywood royalty is Victoria Price.
Victoria Price, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay, your father's Vincent Price, Mr. Thriller.
Yep.
King of horror.
Yep.
What was Halloween like in your house?
You know, Halloween was kind of a mixed bag because my mother was a costume designer. She was a Broadway and a Hollywood costume designer, right? So I would say to her, I want to be a black cat or I want to be a cowgirl. And she would make me whatever she wanted, like a freaky orange clown. So that wasn't so good, right? But the good part was my dad would take us trick-or-treating. And so we lived near Beverly Hills, but we decided, all my friends and I, that the best candy was on one street in Beverly Hills.
Where?
Palm Drive. That was just our opinion, but we were sure it was true, right? So we would go to Palm Drive and we'd make my dad take us there. We'd go there, we'd knock on the door and get our candy, and then we'd go, you know, check out our loot. And my dad would jump out from behind the bushes and scare the owners. So it was perfect.
I was going to ask you, did he scare you or did you scare him? Was scaring one another part of a family ritual?
You know, he was the least scary person on the planet, but he did have a couple little quirky things. Like one time I went on the set of Theatre of Blood, which was a movie he did in London. We had a driver in London, so he took us out to this scary neighborhood. I mean, really like decrepit and old tumble-down warehouses. And I'm looking out the window, I'm about 10, and I'm thinking, where are we going, right? And so I get out of the car and all of a sudden this crowd of like freaky people, I mean like beggars with open sores and no teeth, they come out and they start pawing me and asking me for money, and I'm so scared and nobody's helping me, and my dad sweeps out of the building and says, oh, you people, get away, that's my daughter. That's all that happened. It was years later when I watched the movie that I realized they were the extras and he had made them do that.
Oh,
Are you
wow.
serious?
Yes, that was his sense of humor.
That sounds like a scene from Thriller.
Right, it was exactly like that.
Yeah. Oh, you lived that and you survived.
Barely.
And you're normal.
Quasi. I wouldn't go that far.
We love that.
She is normal because she's actually done this. Now, you've called your parents' cookbook, and I quote here, the embodiment of my parents' life, philosophy, and the best parts of their marriage and creative partnership. Explain what you mean by that.
You know, I think as a kid you grow up and you see them as parents, but as you get older you see them as people. And the further away I get from them, I realize what unbelievably creative people they were. So here are people, they bought art for Sears Roebuck. I mean, they bought Picassos and Whistlers and Dalis for Sears, and you could basically go and buy a Picasso from Sears that my dad had bought for $95 on your Sears credit card.
What?
I mean, amazing stuff.
Why wasn't I alive?
Right? So, you know,
tragic.
and my mom framed all of them. She actually started something called National Treasures for Sears, which was like Restoration Hardware 30 years before Restoration Hardware. I mean, they were so creative. So this cookbook was really about that kind of creativity. It was like not the bucket list approach to life, like, oh, I've heard this restaurant is really good, I should go check it out. It was like the world is our oyster. The world is this incredible place. And to learn about a culture, you jump in. You learn about the art, you learn about the design, you eat the food, and then you bring it home and you share it with the people you love. And that's what the cookbook was about.
So many of the recipes are inspired by your parents' travels, your travels, and there are recipes in there for everything from hot dogs to French toast.
Exactly.
What is your favorite recipe?
You know, my favorite probably comes from New York, from Sardi's. And it's this asparagus, very simple dish. It's asparagus with 2 fried eggs on top, very thinly sliced, like a sharp cheese, like Grana Padano or something like that, and cracked pepper. Really simple, so delicious, it never doesn't taste good.
I'm starving.
Right? Me too.
I'm starving and salivating.
Yeah.
Did your dad have a favorite dish? Was there something that he always liked to return to? Made him feel like home?
He loved breakfast. So he made popovers there in the cookbook for breakfast. He made the French toast. He made pancakes for breakfast. He loved all of that. But I would say probably, you know, his favorite thing at the end of his life was risotto.
Risotto?
Yeah, and he learned how to make it from Marcella Hazan, who was the Julia Child of Italy. And he went to Italy to learn how to make it from her. And then he taught himself all different kinds of risotto. So at the end of his life, for sure, the risotto was his favorite.
So is that how he actually went about collecting these recipes? Actually going out there, meeting people, getting them to teach him?
Oh, yeah. Or going to a restaurant and he would fall in love with the recipe and he'd say, could I have that recipe? And you know, These days, I'm not sure chefs would do that because they're very, but my dad honestly could have charmed light out of a light post, right? He was so sweet. And so I think he just said, I love this, and they gave it to him, and then he went home and figured out how to make it.
You've said that he had an omnivorous appetite for life. It sounds like it.
Oh, completely. Yeah. He was somebody, he said, if you're always curious, you'll never be bored. And he said, you know, life is so interesting. And he just had no tolerance for people who walked around saying they were bored. How can you be bored?
Oh, no.
There's all these pictures of us when I'm a little kid, my dad and me, looking at rocks. And I'm thinking, why are we looking at rocks, right? Who cares about the rocks? But he was trying to teach me as a little kid, look down, look up, look all around you, pay attention. There's always something to learn. There's always something to be curious about.
Your parents also really enjoyed entertaining as well, and I read a quick story about your mother actually making utensils in her kiln for a party.
Yes.
I haven't even picked out my son's Halloween costume yet. I'm feeling really inferior right now.
I know.
But she was really committed, huh?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, she was a costume designer, right? And she treated life like it was a Broadway show. So everything had to be perfect. Dinner parties had to be perfect. That was good. Me having to be perfect, not so good, right? You know? But yeah, she decided this one, dinner party, she wanted to copper luster everything. So she copper lustered everything in her own personal walk-in kiln, right? So.
Copper luster.
I know, amazing.
I know, that's interesting, right? You need to explain about that some other time. But let's talk about what you've learned and the techniques you've picked up from your parents and how you apply them today to the so-called new age kind of cooking.
Sure. Well, you know, theirs was really about, like I said, you know, when they started, this was all very much viewed as this kind of elitist thing, to go to fancy restaurants. My dad went to Yale, he went to the University of London. He had this elite education, but he loved art and all the arts. And he didn't want people to feel like they shouldn't have access to it. So he wanted to make people realize that wherever you went, that could be gourmet. In other words, like one Saturday, we went all over LA eating taquitos from little stands next to car washes. That was gourmet. Wow. So what I've learned, because I feel like now the pendulum has swung kind of way too far the other direction, right? And we kind of approach art and cooking really with this bucket list mentality. What should I buy? Where should I eat? What if the thing you want is really right down the street and it's your favorite Indian restaurant, it's your favorite food truck? You know, what if the thing you fall in love with that you want to hang on your wall is a photograph that a friend took? It's not some name artist. So for me, what I really learned is pay attention to your heart, live from your heart. And that's how they lived. Instead of this idea that there's some moral authority or cultural authority or group of people out there who think there's a right way to do it. The right way to do it is based on love. It's what you love. And that's what I learned.
Yes, yes. Hashtag that. Put that on Twitter. Now let's talk about your interior design career as well. So you followed your parents into the arts.
Yes.
In your own way.
Yeah.
Why was it important for you to carve out your own lane and not necessarily go into the Hollywood world?
You know, they were so famous and so successful, but also I saw how hard they worked. And I'm a workaholic too. And I thought, if I'm going to work really hard, it has to be for something I care about. And I knew that I didn't love acting enough, although I studied acting. And so I ended up going into the arts, and I'm both an art dealer and a designer, but I'm also a writer and a public speaker. And so for me, whatever I've done as an entrepreneur is really how I see myself. It's about what can I do to follow my heart. So for example, right now I'm in the second year of a seminary program.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Really?
And the idea is really for me to be able to speak about, my spiritual practice has been the most important thing in my life, and I've sort of hidden it over here in this closet, right? And I'm thinking, you know, I want to incorporate all of that in my life, because everything I'm talking about, art, cooking, sharing, speaking, how you live, what you live with, that all should come from the heart. And it is sort of
a good meal is a religious experience,
totally,
isn't it? Yes.
Totally sharing a meal. You know, it's all about gratitude. It's all about connection. So really, what I learned from them was to follow my heart, and acting wasn't where my heart was. So I'm grateful I didn't.
And we're grateful you did it too. We're grateful you're here.
Thank you.
Shahan, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, no, just the way you speak is inspiring.
Yes,
you have inspired me today, and I thank you for that.
That's right.
Oh, totally my pleasure. You know, I started this little legacy ritual because my dad died 6 days before Halloween. So I thought, how can I honor my dad with a ritual? And I decided that my dad's philosophy of life was really simple. It came down to one word: yes. You know, we go through life with all these other words like should or maybe or unless or even yeah, but, which isn't yes, right? But my dad, you know, he became the king of horror because he said yes. He did this rap to this little song called Thriller because he said yes. So my suggestion to everybody is, once between now and Halloween, say yes to something you've been resistant to.
Yeah.
So I think it's, you know, it's changed my life to start saying yes. So that's my little ritual to honor my dad.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for saying yes to being here.
My pleasure.
We
Thanks
say
for
yes
having me.
to you coming back anytime.
Awesome. Thank you so
so
much.
much. You're
Thank
fantastic.
You guys are too. Thank you.
Yes.
There we go.
Shall we do the Thriller dance to break?
Oh, yeah.
No? I love that. No, not working? Not working? Not working for you, Shahan?
Not working for
Okay,
me.
all right. We'll be right back with more Rise Entertainment 360. It works for me. I like it.
There we
Yeah.
go.
It's close to midnight. Yeah.